Hello and welcome once again to A Man Walks Around a Maze, talking about Iain M Banks novels. So I'm talking today, I've got to chapters 3 and 4 of Matter, and these were really good chapters. So first of all, chapter 3, we're introduced to another main character, Tuberous Holt, who is the servant to Furbin, and this is he's another point of view character. And the thing I was thinking here was that there's a level of humour here, and this reminded me a bit of put me a bit in mind of Bertie Wooster and Jeeves. So you've got that thing of the servant who's obviously a bit more intelligent than the master and looks after the master, and even though he's of a lower rank, is clearly of superior intellect and superior abilities. Furbin is a little bit like that. He's a little bit of a Burke, a little bit of a spoilt Burke. So in this chapter you get alternating between the viewpoints of Furbin and Tuberous Holt. The other thing that was cool was as Tuberous is searching through the level for his master, you get him looking out over the war-torn landscape. You get all these columns of smoke rising up, and you get more of a sense of what the shell world's like and what the level's like. And there's a mention of one of the towers going up into the sky, so that's pretty cool. You getting that more of a sense of this incredible world that we're visiting through this book. Furbin trying to convince Tuberous Holt of what he's seen and the treachery, and you get this more of an insight into what this servant character is like, that he's quite wily. He's got several weapons hidden about his person. There's a mention of him forgetting to return the army issue pistol. So he's someone who's got contingency plans and doesn't always strictly play by the rules. There being a moment of realizing that there's genuine affection for the prince, though, when he finds him. So he's quite a warm character as well, and these two form a bit of a nice counterpoint to each other. You can see it's setting them up to go on this journey together, and there's a mention of where they're going to go. They're going to travel to seek his sister's help, and that would be Jan, who went off to be a culture special circumstances agent. And obviously Furbin doesn't really have any idea of what that entails, what it means, and I'm sure he doesn't have the faintest clue of exactly who the culture are and what they do, and probably doesn't understand that Jan is like much more capable than he is, but she's someone that he can turn to for help. The other thing that's very evident in the writing is the kind of class consciousness of it, the hierarchical structure of the society that Furbin inhabits and Tuberous Holt inhabits at a much lower level. There's a lot of references to things like the beasts of burden, the different beasts of burden and battle beasts that you get, and Tuberous Holt is got two of them, one for him to ride and one for his master to ride, and Mercicors are a lot more refined than Rows, and the reference to him having some training with flying beasts, but everyone who's trying to teach him that, everyone who's trying to teach Tuberous obviously doesn't think very much of him, that he's not refined enough to get involved in that. So I think the other thing that it does is you put this together with the prologue, and you see how this world is maybe quite similar to the world that we see Jan and the drone, not droid, intervening in that prologue. And you can quite imagine the culture maybe would do something similar to this war that Tuberous Holt and Mercantile Kyle this is exactly the kind of nonsense that the culture, I can't imagine them liking it very much, but probably they wouldn't have the the wish or the ability to intervene. I think they only would get involved if it's definitely the right thing to do and there's no ambiguity to it. So again, you're seeing this contrast between what the three siblings are going through, the three children, Jan and Prince Furbin and Prince Oromen, who are all very different and contrast nicely with one another. Chapter 4 really expands the world a lot more. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in chapter 4. So chapter 4, I had to read the opening section like 4 or 5 times just to make sense of this ridiculously convoluted sentence about what was going on with the insectoid alien, and what was the Narasine insectoid alien overseer guy who's just leaving and in favour of the Morinveld or something, the Morveld leader who's coming in, and they're talking about, they've obviously met before and they're old friends, but it's this wonderful alien encounter talking about this strange alien world where different species can come and plug in to get oxygen or chlorine or whatever it is that they want to exist, they need to exist on. And you get a lot more about shell worlds here. You get an overview, and it's just such a cool idea. All these different mysterious worlds scattered throughout the galaxy and inhabited by loads of different species. You get that idea of them being like, well, why were they created? The species that created them 1 billion years ago, the Involutra, and this mystery about exactly why they were created, and this idea that it was something to do with casting a force field around the entire galaxy, although why that would be necessary, again, it's a bit of a mystery. All the different names that they accrue, slaughter worlds, because of the number of times traps inside them turn on the people inside, and how does it describe it? Giga deaths, speciesides. This is a great chapter, really wonderful world building, inspired, crazy ideas, and I like this idea that the Morthenveld ambassador, since she was tiny and first heard about shell worlds, made it her mission to go and see one, that she was like enchanted by the idea of them, the mystery of them, all the little details there, the idea that you get the different types, the arithmetic ones and arithmetic and logarithmic, with different distances between the different shells, and towers scattered throughout, and the material, the super strong material that it's made of, and that these things are have been scavenged by various different species that have made it their home there. Very intriguing, very mysterious, and also at the same time as doing all this world building, the other thing you get is little nods towards the plot that's going on. There's this reference to the Oct, who who are, of course, they're the mentoring species to the species where this the battle's been going on, with mercantile Tylos being, I think, the recipient of some machinations that the Oct are on about. I think the Oct are helping them along, but there's a reference to there not being any transfer of technology, and so the Narasine overseer couldn't throw the book at them because they hadn't really broken the rules. But there's a sense of, oh, the Oct aren't really trustworthy. Yeah, and there's that other thing about the Oct being the inheritor species, that they say they're descended from the Involutra. Whether they are or not seems a bit spurious to me. That's those two chapters. On to the next.